gentlemen, on the 5th of January this year, an unacceptable security lapse took place that has left the Aam Aadmi wondering that if it can happen to the Pradhan Sevak or the Prime Minister of this country, then what will happen to them, the Aam Aadmi? Prime Minister Modi was left exposed and vulnerable for a good 20 minutes on a flyover under full public glare in Ferozepur. Today, the Supreme Court panel has admitted that there were lapses on the part of the Punjab police. In a severe indictment, the panel has said Ferozepur SSP failed to discharge his duty to maintain law and order. He failed to do this even though sufficient force was available and even though he was informed 2 hours before the Prime Minister Narendra Modi was supposed to enter into that route. Congressman who was the Chief Minister at that time, Charanjit Singh Channi, at that point of time had trivialized the security breach. He said that PM was completely safe and that nobody would have even thrown a small piece of stone at the Prime Minister. Listen in to what the then Punjab Chief Minister, Mr. Channi, had said.
अरे मैं फिर कह रहा हूँ पीएम को यहाँ कोई खतरा नहीं था, ना ही हुआ है, ना ही कभी होगा और वो बिल्कुल सेफ थे। उनकी सिक्योरिटी चारों तरफ थी, कोई उनके नज़दीक नहीं गया, कोई दूर से कंकर नहीं फेंका, कोई नज़दीक 1 किलोमीटर तक उनके सामने नहीं आया। तो इसमें क्या है? लेकिन मैंने आपको पहले ही बता दिया था कि प्रियंका गांधी जी से बात हुई थी, जो भी यहाँ बात हुई मैं उनको बता दी थी।
With the Supreme Court panel finding, the BJP went after the Congress party. It said that anything could have happened in a span of those 20 minutes. Calling it a clear-cut case of a conspiracy, BJP asked who leaked the Prime Minister's route information. Listen in to Anurag Thakur, Information and Broadcasting Minister.
और जिस पुल पे जाकर वो उनका काफिला रुका, उससे मात्र 100 मीटर की दूरी पर आंदोलनकारी, आप कल्पना कीजिए भारत के प्रधानमंत्री पुल पर हो, 10 किलोमीटर की दूरी पर पाकिस्तान का बॉर्डर हो, जहां पे तोप की आप रेंज में हो, स्नाइपर्स की रेंज में हो सकते हो, वहां से गोली बारूद चल कुछ भी हो सकता था। और पंजाब पुलिस मूक दर्शक बनकर 20 मिनट तक खड़ी रही। पंजाब के मुख्यमंत्री फोन पर भी उपलब्ध नहीं थे, ना व्यक्तिगत तौर पर थे। एसएसपी ने हाथ खड़े कर दिए थे। कुछ भी हो सकता था। प्रदर्शनकारियों को प्रधानमंत्री के रूट के बारे में जानकारी किसने दी? एसएसपी किससे बार बार फोन पर बात कर रहे थे? किसके निर्देश ले रहे थे?
This is not the only blow that jolted the opposition today. The charge that Modi Sarkar used Pegasus spyware to snoop on institutions, politicians and others. Another Supreme Court panel said that there was no conclusive evidence, but case after case, the opposition's defense is breached. In 2018, Rahul Gandhi had said Rafale jet deal is India's biggest ever scam, but in 2019, the Supreme Court had dismissed all review petitions saying they lacked merit. Rahul Gandhi had alleged that Modi government bought Pegasus to snoop on rivals, but Supreme Court panel today said that inconclusive proof that Pegasus was used in the 29 phones that were analyzed. Trinamool Congress Member of Parliament Shatrughan Sinha in March said the CBI, ED and other agencies were used by the BJP to target the opposition, but you've seen mounds of cash that were found at Trinamool Congress senior leader and minister Partha Chatterjee and his close associates. In 2019, Rahul Gandhi had said the Supreme Court agreed that Chaukidar chor hai, but he had to offer an unconditional apology for misquoting the Supreme Court as well. But the opposition is refusing to budge on the Pegasus issue. It says that the Modi government's non-cooperation with the Supreme Court panel is an acceptance it had something to hide. BJP Member of Parliament and former Union Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad responded to that charge. Listen.
ये देशद्रोह का मामला है, राजद्रोह का मामला है। क्या राहुल गांधी कांग्रेस पार्टी माफी मांगेगी? जिस पर इतना तूफान खड़ा किया, कि भारत में जनता की प्राइवेसी को नुकसान बताया जा रहा है, इंस्टीट्यूशंस को कॉम्प्रोमाइज किया जा रहा है, प्रधानमंत्री अपने पार्टी के अंदर पेगासस के द्वारा सर्वेलेंस करा रहे हैं, आरोप शुरू हो गया। तो क्या आज कांग्रेस पार्टी माफी मांगेगी?
So the legitimate question on the news are tonight. Has the opposition's defense been breached? That's the question and that's the debate. Target Modi plot. That's the hashtag and the debate coming up on the other side.
You're watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
And joining me tonight, Sanju Verma, National Spokesperson of the BJP, Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow of the ORF. Also joining me tonight, Tehseen Poonawala, Political Analyst. Ghanshyam Tiwari, National Spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party, will join us in just a minute. Tausif Ahmed, Lawyer and Political Analyst. But my first question goes to Dr. Anand Ranganathan, author, scientist, what have you. Dr. Anand Ranganathan, every trick in the book has been used by the opposition to target. And I'm not being light-hearted on this. Of course, the opposition has a right to ask questions of the ruling party and the Prime Minister. It's their job and it is their constitutional duty. But they've raised questions on every single thing. Agnipath, today the Delhi High Court has not given a stay. Rafael, Chaukidar Chor hai, Jai, you know what happened. The Supreme Court dismissed that entire charge. After that came the issue of the agencies. You know the mounds of cash that have been found and AK-47s these days possibly also being used. All of these charges. But the worst thing that has come up today is also the issue of the Prime Minister being put on target. His life being in danger because an opposition-ruled state could not ensure his security. And today the Supreme Court has given the verdict on that. What does this tell us about the politics, and don't you think it's time for accountability from the Congress on this?
Good evening, Navika, and good evening to all my fellow panelists. There are two issues here, Navika, and I'm glad that you touched upon something other than the PM security, which I will harp on just in a minute. But we have to look at the larger picture here. And the larger picture is that I think the opposition should realize now, or at least the people should, that a huge chunk of the reason why Modi keeps winning is not just because of his policies, but also because of the policies of the opposition. It constitutes a huge chunk of the vote that Modi gets because he knows all he has to do is to sit back. The opposition plays right into the Prime Minister's hand. Now, as you said, there is nothing wrong in being critical of the Prime Minister. The problem comes when you are critical on the wrong issues and full and brimming with agenda. You forgot, you talked about Rafale, you talked about Pegasus. Navika, you forgot about Justice Loya. You forgot about a lot of other things. Ayodhya, you forgot about so many instances where the opposition, in its haste, just because it hates Modi, just because its hatred is more bitter than a mocktail of neem and Karela juice. And that is what Modi knows. Modi knows that sooner or later what happens is that the hatred for him transmogrifies into hatred for India. So while the hatred for him might garner some votes for the opposition, the people know that those who start hating India, people would never vote for them. And that is exactly what is happening. Modi hate is fine. हेट करना है करो, लेकिन उस चक्कर में इंडिया को हेट करना शुरू कर दिया हर पॉलिसी पे, चाइना पे, रफाल पे, on everything. And that is the problem that the opposition doesn't. Now, if I can take a couple of minutes, because this is a mirror of sorts, what the Supreme Court has said today. And to be honest, that this was a shocking breach of security and protocols was beyond doubt. And I'm glad that the Supreme Court agrees and has held the SSP responsible. What remains to be established, however, is whether this was collusion or plain incompetence. Three issues here, Navika, and let me delve into them one by one very briefly. Number one, it was established that the SPG had briefed the state administration and police multiple times about the possibility of a road blockade because of protests, about an alternate route, even about bad weather and the chances of it infringing on the security arrangement. Number two, it was established how this information was freely shared by the state police with the protesters. Three, it was established by the Supreme Court that ASL was conducted by the SPG almost 5 days ago. Now these are facts. They cannot be disputed. So I ask, why didn't the heads roll? Congress leaders and their minions, some of them are on the panel tonight, were on an overdrive ridiculing the nation's concern at this serious lapse. Remember the incident when the same Congress created so much hue and cry about a spot of green laser light that fell on Rahul Gandhi's chest oppressor 2 years ago, which they claimed was from a sniper gun. Turned out it was a flashlight from the camera of a Congress party photographer. But these same guys claimed it was an attempt to assassinate their great leader. Modi and Shah were implicated. Their parliament well was rushed at. The streets were poured onto. Op-eds were written on vengeful Modi. And when a Supreme Court verified lapse occurs that jeopardizes life and limb of a sitting Prime Minister, these same guys are silent. Hardly surprising, therefore, that a narrative was built over weeks preceding this lapse to make the PM feel guilty of his security cover, starting with all that hullabaloo over 12 crore armored Maybach, even though as the government later clarified, it was all under routine. But Navika, just 10 seconds. For all those who called this a jumla and that Modi was scared, let me remind them that this is the same Modi who continued to deliver his speech even when bombs were exploding all around him in Patna. This is the same Modi who at the height of Kashmir insurgency and intifada went all the way to Lal Chowk without a bulletproof jacket and unfurled the tricolour. So think before you make a fool of yourself. Respect the post of the Prime Minister at least. Yeah.
Tehseen Poonawalla, I want to ask you, it's not just about the SSP of Ferozepur. The issue is that Mr. Channi, who was the then Chief Minister, made light of the entire issue. The Congress party poo-pooed it. They all said, oh, rally mein koi nahi aaya tha. The buses did not reach. There were no people to reach over there. And that's why this drama has been created. Today, I want to ask you, Tehseen Poonawalla, is it time for the Congress party to soul search and apologize to the nation? Because today, Mr. Modi is the Prime Minister. Tomorrow, it will be somebody else. Day after tomorrow, it will be somebody else. But it is a sacrosanct constitutional position as a head of the country, a man who represents the people of India, whose life was put in danger. Today, Tehseen Poonawalla, is it time to fix accountability and to apologize to the nation?
Namaskar, Navika ma'am. A lot of things have been said by my dear friend Dr. Anand Ranganathan, who I hold in high esteem, and I trust that because a lot of allegations have been made, I will be allowed the same amount of time to rebut each one of them. For starters, Dr. Ranganathan, Neem Karela, one does not hate it. It is good for the health of the country. It is good for the liver. It is good for the body. Mr. Modi and BJP are not good for the country. And the truly anti-national thing is, as the Supreme Court said today, that the Prime Minister, present government refused to cooperate with it. What is truly anti-national is overturning a Supreme Court judgment in the ED case and appointing his minions as ED director after Supreme Court says in writing. I don't want to go there. Let's speak about the Prime Minister's security, because I think that is the more pressing issue. We will come to Pegasus later on in this debate with Sushantji also entering. There is no doubt in my mind, and I can speak for myself, that my Prime Minister, whether I have differences with Mr. Modi or no, he's my Prime Minister, and he must be secure. Ultimately, India has lost two Prime Ministers from the Congress. It's the Gandhi family that have lost two Prime Ministers. Some of the assassins were taken, their relatives were taken into the BJP. The others were even felicitated by the BJP. Rajiv Gandhi's SPG was withdrawn. That's not the point out here. Let's come to the crux of the matter. The crux of the matter is, there is no doubt there was a lapse in the Prime Minister's security. I said this then, I said this now. There is no doubt there was a local failure. Of course there has to be. But the final arbitrator and administrator of that blue book is nobody else but the SPG, and this is somebody who knows a little bit about SPG. The SPG, even Anand, has its own communication chains. It does not rely on a normal communication. It has its own communication channel. And yet the SPG, the drones are provided. No, please, Anand, please, it's very important.
No, this is rapid fire.
It's not rapid fire. It is absolutely not rapid fire. I'm going to rebut you. In fact, the drones are provided.
Rapid fire.
That may say that, but don't interrupt me. You rebut me. Do you know, Anand, the drones are provided by the BSF out there. BSF's jurisdiction had increased in Punjab for security, but of course it was SPG and local police that were giving the security. Of course there was local police failure, but SPG should have taken a call, taken a U-turn the minute there was the roads were blocked. The SPG allowed the Prime Minister to sit there like a sitting duck for 20 minutes. The drones also communicated with the SPG.
This is scandalous. Sorry.
Which is the reason that Nana Patole tweeted कि जो बोया है वो ही पाओगे. That is why Nana Patole said this. You know, Anand Ranganathan, look at it. Even today they will not take onus.
Yes. No, I know Tehseen Tehseen, please.
Sorry.
You know, and you please. Yes, and you please ask the anchor Navika. Rapid fire means that I am allowed to interject, but I gave you the grace. I did not interject, so please allow me 20 seconds.
And I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Number one, I think, Tehseen, you must apologize on 2 counts. Number one, to the SPG, because if you look at the terms of reference of the Supreme Court committee, they have clearly okayed and not blamed the SPG at all. As I told you, the ASL was conducted by SPG 5 days ago before the whole thing. And its solely responsibility by the Supreme Court is on the shoulders of the SSP. So please apologize to SPG. Number 2, I give you 4 instances where you and the whole opposition went running to the Supreme Court saying Modi is guilty. Those 4 instances are Justice Loya, Rafale, Pegasus, and on the security lapse. On all 4 Supreme Court has sided with PM Modi. Can you please at least teeny-weeny, छोटी-मोटी apology नहीं कहनी तो कह दो मुझे माफ कर दो मोदी जी, ये तो कह दो कम से कम.
I firmly believe that as so far as the Punjab issue is concerned, if we do not soul search and question the SPG, we are going to see even more tragedies, and I hope it never happens. The SPG is the final security arbitrator for the Prime Minister. It should have taken a U-turn. The SPG override everybody.
Well, then why, Mr. Tehseen Poonawalla, did you chest beat when the SPG was withdrawn from the senior leaders of the Congress party? Number one. Now, if the SPG is so incompetent, तो फिर issue क्या था? जाने देते उनको. And then if the SPG's blue book has to be followed, why did Mr. Rahul Gandhi on several occasions flout the same rules set by the SPG? Why don't you give the accountability on that score? Because if something had happened, you and your party would have gone all over town to say, "Hey, इनका तो यही design था," and they would never have enlisted the fact that they had flouted the norms of the blue book. Tehseen Poonawalla, take a break, take a chill pill while I get in Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari. Take a chill pill. 1 minute. Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari. Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari, on several issues, as we have cited, on several issues, the questions that have been raised by the opposition, and of course, it's your job, your duty, and your right to raise these questions against the ruling party of the country. But to pick up issues which finally fall flat because they are low on facts, doesn't it create a credibility crisis for the opposition?
Good evening, Navika ji, to you, the viewers, and my fellow co-panelists. I believe that anybody who, with an intelligent and honest mind, looks at the Pegasus affair will clearly see that this government is under serious accusation and they are not cooperating because they want to escape this accusation. Now, there are henchmen of this government, from institutions in India to institutions in media. They may want us to believe that this government is innocent. But anybody with an intelligent and honest mind can read through the international press, read through the Economic Times itself in 2021, that beautifully explained what Pegasus is and what the government is accused of, and then can make up their mind. So I think we are in a post-truth stage where people like Anand Ranganathan, who are very learned, where somebody like you, who has great exposure, can come and present a case that this government has nothing to do with Pegasus. This government stands with NSO. It established a partnership with the Israeli government. When even NSO I heard the leadership is stepping down, Israeli government is not standing with NSO. Today, if there's the only democratic country where the government stands with NSO, it is the government of India. And where the media stands with the government on this issue, it is India. So I think I don't have to make a case here. It is for people, after all, I'm a spokesperson for a political party. but believer in democracy, and when dishonesty is at such a large scale that media will make a case that government is innocent, I would not speak. I rest my case. Anand here believes that government is innocent. You believe that government is innocent. Maybe you are much more intelligent, and a future generation will judge whether you were batting for the government against the democracy or you were speaking with a conscience.
Well,
Navika, can I come in
Ghanshyam
here?
Tiwari, on
You know, these are
corruption
allegations
issue,
that are-
democracy dies, but mounds of cash are found. On Rafale Chori issue, democracy dies every day, yet the Supreme Court rejects it. On the issue of the Prime Minister's own security, the opposition really should be standing here and seeking forgiveness from the country, but democracy will die if that happens. So Sanju Verma, you know, if they say that there are certain henchmen and people who run an agenda to protect the Prime Minister, the same can be said about the henchmen and the agenda on the other side, that they always target the Prime Minister and target him on everything and come up with nothing. Sanju Verma?
Yes, Navika, you know, we are 24 minutes into the debate. A lot of points have been raised by a couple of panelists. I will quickly rebut some of the baseless allegations against the BJP. First and foremost, the Supreme Court is not a handmaiden of the Modi government. Justice Ramana clearly said that the Ferozepur SSP engaged in dereliction of duty. And I think Anurag Thakur, the Minister for Information and Broadcasting, you know, he categorically asked a few questions and the Congress has yet to come clean on that. The point is this, you know, Tehseen spoke about the Blue Book. There was an amendment made in the Blue Book in 2019, and that amendment of the Blue Book says that only the inner cordon around the Prime Minister, the responsibility of that rests on the SPG. But even the perimeter of that cordon is decided by the relevant state government. I have one question to ask. Why is it that when Prime Minister Modi landed on 6th January 2022 at Bhatinda Airport for his rallies and to inaugurate 42,000 crore worth of development projects, did Charanjit Singh Channi, as per protocol, receive the Prime Minister? No. Did the Chief Secretary of Punjab receive the Prime Minister? No. Was the DGP there at the Bhatinda Airport? No. So the fact is that protocol was violated from the word go. And now I will tell you something else. Forget what the BJP is saying. Look at what the ADG Law and Order of Punjab says. He says that he wrote to the then DGP Siddharth Chattopadhyay on 3 occasions. 1st January 2022, 2nd January 2022, 4th January 2022, saying that barely 2 weeks back, there has been a bomb blast within the premises of the Ludhiana court. Hence, we have to be even more careful about the PM's security. Let us have a contingency plan in place. So a contingency plan was already there, and a contingency drill was also conducted, Navika, on the 4th of Jan, 1 day before Prime Minister's arrival at Bhatinda. I want to ask if the contingency plan was there, if the contingency drill had been rehearsed, if the ADG says that the DGP had enough information that there could be, some elements, nefarious elements who could disrupt the Prime Minister's rally, what stopped the top brass of the Channi dispensation? What stopped Charanjit Singh Channi from being present there along with the Prime Minister as per protocol? He said, मुझे कोविड हुआ था, आपको कोविड हुआ था, पर 2 घंटे के बाद तो आप प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस दे रहे थे, तब आपको कोविड नहीं हुआ. And I also want to ask one thing. You know, Congress has this habit of giving legitimacy to anything and everything that is pro-Modi. Till today, the nation awaits answers on why Shyama Prasad Mukherjee died under mysterious circumstances under detention in 1953. Why did Lal Bahadur Shastri die 1 day after signing the Tashkent Agreement? Why did ex-Chief Minister of Punjab, Pratap Singh Kaur, die under mysterious circumstances when there was a Congress government at the center? Why did Madhav Rao Scindia?
Oh my God, that's a lot of questions. That's a lot of questions, Sanju Verma. The Congress is not answering the first one of them.
May I please finish? May I please finish in 30 seconds? You gave a lot of time to everybody.
This is defamatory.
You gave a lot of time to everybody.
Congress killed Madhav Rao
Please allow me
Scindia?
30 seconds. Navika, I refuse to engage with Testis because he has...
No, I don't want to engage. But what kind of... How can you allow
One minute.
How is this being allowed on a show?
Sanju Verma ji, you've raised a lot of questions and you've raised a lot of questions as far as the security issue is concerned. So let me get in Mr. Sushant Sareen.
Let me finish in 30 seconds, please.
Just Jyotiraditya Scindia endorsed this. I'm seriously asking this. I never get upset, Navika ma'am. It's extremely disrespectful. How can you just allow things like this to be spoken? Just Jyotiraditya endorsed this. I'm seriously asking this. I'm sorry. You cannot come here and say,
what is the point you want to rebut her on? What is the point you want to rebut her on? Tessie Poonawalla, I'll give you time to rebut her.
Stop this. You cannot allow somebody to be defamed this way. I'm sorry.
What is the defamation? What is the defamatory part?
India, you have no answers to how Madhav India died. No answers to how. What is going on? Is this the topic for today? Is Jyotiraditya Scindia endorsing this? He's in their party. How is this being allowed on national?
I will not allow this debate to be sidetracked. I will not allow this debate to be sidetracked. 1 minute. I'm getting in Sushant Sareen. Sushant Sareen. 1 minute, Sanju Verma ji, please. Let's get order.
You gave everybody so much time to barely get the half the time.
Stick on the topic, yeah?
Ma'am, I've just got a count. You have spoken for 3 minutes. And 3 minutes in a debate uninterrupted is a long period of time. But let me get in the others. Let's be courteous. Sushant Sareen, the question is here. The question is, was there an agenda to target the Prime Minister's life, his well-being? Because the opposition has to oppose and target the Prime Minister. And can that be seen as a conspiracy? And is it really acceptable today?
Navika, I wouldn't go as far as to call it a conspiracy to, bodily harm the Prime Minister. But I would imagine that there was something amiss out there because, as Sanju Verma just said, the absence of the Chief Minister, the absence of the Chief Secretary, the absence of the DGP who was a blue-eyed boy of the now convicted Navjot Singh Sidhu, who had insisted that he be made the DGP. So there was something not quite right. And what I find surprising about the Supreme Court report today is that, just blaming an SSP, the SSP is a minor cog in this entire government machinery. You mean to tell me that the SSP of a district in a small state like Punjab has the kind of, wherewithal to defy and sabotage a prime ministerial visit? I find that somewhat strange to believe until and unless that SSP had got orders or had been told to stand aside. I can't imagine an SSP of a district defying the government of India and sabotaging the visit of a Prime Minister. Now, the fact that this was a security breach is of course very clear. Now, given the situation out there, something untoward could have happened. Now, I don't know whether there was a conspiracy or not. I'm not in a position to say anything, on that. But the fact of the matter that a Prime Minister like Mr. Modi, who is probably, attracts a lot of these haters, he has his share of haters, as I've had other Prime Ministers in this country. This kind of a security breach is inexcusable. But frankly, I am not happy with the Supreme Court report. I think it leaves a lot of questions unanswered. And I wish that the central government was to look into that security breach much more carefully. Just one more thing. This tendency which is increasingly started happening in our political life, that everything which the governments, whether of the state or the center or political parties, do not want to do on their own, they shove it to this judiciary. I think we are on a very, very slippery slope by inviting the judiciary to now talk about the security breach, to now look into whether the Pegasus thing had happened or not, for the judiciary entering into virtually every field of our life, including whether political parties in their manifestos should have freebies or not have freebies. That's a political question. how does the Supreme Court enter into it?
Well, then
If
how
a
do
government
you
of the day
stop
wants to while
people
away
from going to the
and
Supreme
throw the
Court,
money-
Sushant Sareen? If people have taken the Pegasus matter to the Supreme Court,
But this is where but this is where the Supreme Court has to enter and exercise some degree of restraint on what are the matters it will hear and what are the matters it will not hear. For virtually everything, if the Supreme Court is going to be stepping in, you will become an ungovernable country. The Supreme Court,
Fair
tell me
point.
something, what is the rationale for the Supreme Court to talk about freebies?
absolutely, these are political issues in the
doesn't make
domain
any
of
sense.
executives and at best a political issue. So let me ask Mr. Tausif Ahmed. Tausif Ahmed, on the issue of Pegasus, we go to Supreme Court. When the Supreme Court says nothing in Pegasus cannot be proved, there is malware in 5 of the 29 phones given, we're still questioning it. We are saying the government did not cooperate.
Navika, there will be malware in virtually every phone these days.
Absolutely.
All kinds of, especially many of the Android phones are full of malware. So, to say that any malware which has been detected has to be Pegasus, it was an independent inquiry commission. They could have actually found out if there was a traces of
He says it
Pegasus.
is because of malware.
Well, let's not make light of this. But Tausif Ahmed, the issue here is that we are fighting on issues, at least the political parties are fighting on issues which are indefensible. The Prime Minister or the government should not be using the ED or the CBI to fight corruption. And when there are raids, there are mounds of cash found. Rafael, there was chori, the Supreme Court says, but we will continue to believe that yes, there was corruption. We don't have any evidence, but we will continue to believe. We will not believe the Supreme Court. But then on Pegasus, we will go to Supreme Court and we will not believe what it says. So Tausif Ahmed, opposition and questioning is fine. But are we taking this too far? And are we looking at a country where the real issues between political parties, which should be debated, thrashed, because that is the domain of executive, the point that Sushant Sareen made is actually being sorted out in courts, and the judiciary is more powerful than the executive ever was, just because everybody is fighting with each other, even on the issue of the Prime Minister's security?
Navika, I think we must refrain from criticizing judiciary's intervention in the matter of Pegasus. When the Pegasus story came up, there was allegation that the Pegasus spyware was used against the citizens. And by citizens, it meant mainly the opposition political leaders, including judges and so on. And a demand was raised by the opposition leaders to discuss this inside the parliament. Why did the government not allow a discussion on this issue inside the parliament? Then as a last resort, where do people go? They will go to judiciary. The courts and the judiciary of the country is a last resort to save the democracy. Unless we accept that democracy is no more in our country, it is a dictatorship. The final word, the last word is the ruling dispensation, and you have no other alternative. You will not go anywhere. You will sit inside home and cry. But today we must not condemn judiciary just because judiciary.
Okay, nobody is condemning the judiciary. But then will you believe the verdict? Will you believe the verdict? Will you believe the verdict? The verdict says no Pegasus. The verdict says no Pegasus, no proof of Pegasus. But you won't believe that verdict also. So why do you go to court?
The proof come? Government did not cooperate.
The government did not cooperate. All right, government did not cooperate. That's the point you're making. All right, I'm going to get Sanju Verma to respond to that. 1 minute, I'll get Sanju Verma to respond to that. Anand, short interjection. You're raising your hand. Yes.
I have a point to make.
Very quickly.
Navika, may I
very
please?
quickly, Navika. Yeah, Sanjuji, just 1 second. Navika, both Sushantji and Tausif Bhai have made very important points. Let me address them within 30 seconds. Sushantji said, where is the need for everything to be taken to the Supreme Court. I must say I disagree with that, because let us look at the two, not just independent, because the opposition has cast shadows, doubts on them as well. Let us look at the two most...
I don't know why you call the BJP if you don't want a pathetic debate.
Navika, can I continue or am I going to be interrupted?
Sanjuji, I'm coming to you in 30 seconds. Yes, Anand.
What's going on here? Yeah, thank you. So let us look at the two most independent institutions in our country. They are the Election Commission and the Supreme Court. The Election Commission is no longer considered as independent by the opposition.
ED are not independent.
Can I, Tausif bhai, I was coming to you. I'm agreeing with you, yaar. एक बार सुन तो लो आप, please.
नहीं, पर वो CBI ED भी इंडिपेंडेंट नहीं है. वो कैश मिल गया था, वो गलती से मिल गया था.
Navika.
You know, I was continuing. There's so many interruptions. Navika, can I please, with your permission?
But your 30 seconds are very long, so I'm timing
Exactly.
you 30 seconds.
May I please?
Yes.
They are long. They are long because people keep on interrupting me. They are stretching it. क्या करूं मैं? मेरी क्या गलती है?
अरे भाई, विक्टिम कार्ड मत खेलो, बोलो 20 seconds.
Okay. So number one, सब चीज काट दी मैंने. बस ये पूछना चाहता हूं तौसीफ भाई से, जो कि कह रहे हैं सुप्रीम कोर्ट is the last resort for democracy. So तौसीफ भाई, do you agree with the Supreme Court that there was no corruption in Rafale? Yes or no?
No, they will not believe the Supreme Court. I've already asked that question, not on Pegasus, not on Rafale. Sanju Verma, on the Pegasus issue, they say, why did you not cooperate with the Supreme Court?
You know, Navika, I will need more than 30 seconds. I will need at least 2 minutes. And I want to make this very clear that when it comes to Pegasus, the Supreme Court has categorically said that 29 mobile phones were examined by a Supreme Court committee and there was no Pegasus software found in those phones. Point number one. Point number two, the Israeli company NSO has categorically denied any links with the Indian government, saying that our software is only for terror organizations and for authoritarian regimes in Uganda, Morocco, Togo, what have you. Third and most important point, everyone on this panel will agree, Washington Post, to my knowledge, has never written a positive op-ed or article on the Modi government. Now, who conducted an independent inquiry as to whether the Modi government actually used Pegasus to spy on politicians, journalists, what have you? There were three entities. There is a entity called Forbidden Story, there was Washington Post, and there was Amnesty International. Neither Forbidden Story, nor Amnesty International, which is anti-Modi, nor Washington Post, which is anti-Modi, said that yes, Pegasus was used by the Modi government. These three anti-Modi entities said that Pegasus spyware was never used by the Modi government. Now let me come to the more important point. You know, Sushant raised a very important point about why Supreme Court is getting into everything. But imagine if Supreme Court was not there. I remember the most historic judgment in the last 2 decades. It's not the Rafale judgment, it's not the Ram Mandir judgment. It is on June 24, 2022. The Supreme Court gave a clean chit to the SIT probing the Gujarat riots and clearly said that Teesta Setalwad was acting at the behest of some Malafide elements. There was no larger criminal conspiracy by Narendra Modi. I think this is the biggest slap to the leftist ecosystem which has been hounding Narendra Modi for the last 2 decades.
Ghanshyam Tiwari wants to come in. Ghanshyam Tiwari wants to...
Quickly to Tehseen Poonawala, Navika. Quickly to Tehseen Poonawala. Tehseen, you accused me and you said you will file a defamation case.
I never said. I said it's defamatory. I said it's defamatory.
I said let us find out the mysterious circumstances under which Syama Prasad Mukherjee was killed, Lal Bahadur Shastri was killed, ex-Chief Minister Punjab Pratap Singh Kehro was killed, and of course Madhav Rao Scindia was killed. Why are you rattled? Chor ki daadhi mein tinka.
May I please make a reply since it's a personal allegation?
Well, Tehseen, I would also want to ask you, if you say there was no conspiracy on the Prime Minister, then who was the SSP taking orders from? Was he acting on his own? Is he the smallest cog in the wheel? And why were the DGP and the Chief Minister not present despite protocol requiring them to be there? And why did the Chief Minister then talk about everything was fine, ek patthar bhi nahi pada unse, and why was every Congress leader in the book not talking about the security breach, only talking about how the BJP was making the Dalit Chief Minister look small? I want to ask you this question and you need to respond.
Of course I have to. It's my duty to respond and I will. But please allow me to respond because it's slightly complicated answer. I completely agree with Sushant ji that an SSP is too small, and therefore I am saying this, and I've said this then on your show, that anyone who's involved must be held accountable. And if an SSP was taking orders from anybody else, ultimately this is our Prime Minister, right? So we have to be accountable. Ultimately, Rajiv Gandhi, come on, yaar, you cannot interrupt me.
Don't
You get upset when other people
don't
do it.
interrupt
What is your
Sanju
issue,
ji.
yaar?
Sanju ji, allow him to complete.
But you mock the
What kind of a what kind of
Sanju
a?
ji, please allow him to complete. You've asked him a question. Ask him to complete.
Yeah, I would have finished by now. Yeah, what is this behavior? So yes,
Why?
of course, and our Prime Minister.
This is a debate. I will not allow you to get.
All right, Navika. I mean, I really don't want to fall down to this level. I will keep quiet. I just want to say one thing. With Lal Bahadur Shastri, Madhavrao Sindhya ji or anybody, you are in government, please investigate it. But I wish you all the best. I will keep quiet. Give her the floor, man. It's
Ghanshyam
ridiculous.
Tiwari, my question...
We're not having an intellectual conversation.
1 minute. Ghanshyam Tiwari, my question is very, very simple, and I'm talking about the people's perception and view on this. People of this country would think, अरे कल कांग्रेस पार्टी ने बोला था चौकीदार चोर है, matter has not succeeded in the court of law. People will talk about the Pegasus case where you've accused the government, not proved in court. You know, it's out there in the open. Your party had actually come out and said, bhai BJP ki vaccination hai, mat lena. Everybody is lauding the vaccination, policy in this country. I'm just wanting to ask you, does the opposition really need to go back to the drawing board to pick up issues that actually impact the public and make them larger issues than the non-issues that you are running as an agenda, because they don't find any legs to stand on once they are looked at by courts of law or facts of the case?
People who ask this question must look at what happened to Bilkis Bano. 11 rapists, murderers walked free, garlanded by BJP. A heinous crime occurred right under the watch of Narendra Modi, who did not help Bilkis Bano. And successive BJP governments helped these rapists and murderers. They got parole. When people whose crimes are like Siddiqui Kappan, who's a journalist, for 200 days he's been languishing in jail, has not gotten parole. A joke that was not cracked, man was put in jail. But these murderers and rapists get parole right under, please don't interrupt, right under the nose of the Chief Minister of Gujarat, Narendra Modi. Chief Minister of Gujarat, Narendra Modi, this heinous crime happened. And on 15th August, when Narendra Modi was speaking that Nari ka samman hona chahiye,
so there should be a breach in the Prime Minister's security. Is this a Bilkis Bano debate? But if you are raising it, I'm saying that all this that you have against the Prime Minister, so you are saying that the breach in his security is justified?
Why are you, sir? So allow me one more sentence. On 27th April 2009, Times of India and Economic Times carry a story that PM Manmohan Singh pardons the shoe hurler. In Gujarat, shoe was hurled at him. Did even a constable resign? Was a question asked to Narendra Modi? The voice came that it was a publicity stunt.
Sanju Verma, over to you. Sanju Verma, over to you.
Yes.
The propagandists and
Navika,
of BJP stunned this country.
I heard. Today the Supreme Court made some important observations on the Bilkis Bano case. It said, A, made the 11 convicts who were given a remission as party to the case.
Is Narendra Modi responsible or not? Is Narendra Modi responsible for what is happening to Bilkis Bano or not? Is Narendra Modi responsible or not? Is BJP responsible? responsible for or not?
Ghanshyam Tiwari ji, you've had your say. Sanju Verma is responding to you and lowering your fader. Sanju Verma, 30 seconds, respond.
Yeah. Navika, first and foremost, let me tell you very clearly that the Supreme Court made a very important observation today that we need to see if the remission given to 11 convicts in the Bilkis Bano case is as per the Gujarat government's remission policy, because they already served 15 years and 4 months under prison. Ghanshyam Tiwari sits there and gives a bhashan on Bilkis Bano, but he is the same Ghanshyam Tiwari who will not answer. Why is it that Akhilesh Yadav went to the Allahabad High Court after the 2006 Varanasi riots and after the 2010 Varanasi bombing? He said ye bombing Indian Mujahideen ne nahi ki. The Allahabad High Court
We are digressing from the issue. The basic issue that we raised today on this debate was, of course, the opposition has a right to ask questions of the government, to criticize policies of the government and pick up issues of the people and fight for them. Instead, what are they picking up? They're picking up agenda issues. Issues of Rafale, where the Supreme Court has thrown out their objections. The issues of Pegasus, thrown out of Supreme Court. They even went on to say CAA means every Muslim in this country will lose his citizenship, something that was clear fear-mongering. Issue after issue which has fallen. The question is, for having differences politically, it is actually the right of the opposition. But to actually sit here, support and just take casually the Prime Minister's security, not be answerable on it, is that justified? That's the question we're asking. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and to my panelists for joining me on debate number 1.